Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the No BS with Birchie podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now ex the Matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Guys, today I want to talk about a big community service announcement, right? People are going to lose half of their property portfolio if they don't take action. This might be a bit clickbaity. There's the intro, right? But it's very fucking important. Like, this is just straight from my fucking heart to share with you something that I was thinking about beforehand. And, it's really important, right? 50% of your portfolio, you've lost 50% of your purchasing power in the next 6 months, 12 months, right? Hear me out. So I was thinking about it, and people always say to me, Nathan, why should I, if I can buy $1 million worth of property, why don't I just buy one property for $1 million? Why do I have to buy 6 properties or 5 properties for 200 grand a piece or whatever the case might be? And it's all about the lending, the servicing, the asset, the equity, the capital required, all that. So I was sitting there thinking about this recently, and something I've observed very much recently. Everyone wants to get a 10, 15, 20, 30 property portfolio. Cool, right? You listen to the right dude, but that's what we build all the time for people. However, when I go out there, I'm looking at properties that I used to buy a year ago in Townsville for 150 grand or Gladstone or Perth for 150 grand 3 years ago, whatever. And now they're all 350, 400, 500 grand, right? Crazy prices, right? But the thing I've noticed a lot over the last 12 months is it's getting much harder to get any property at even 200 grand. I used to make posts about property for 100 grand that rent for 250 bucks a week and stuff like that. You don't see those posts much from me. I still buy properties for under 200, under 100, but they're very few and far in between. And, they're not the run of the mill. Like, I reckon 80% of the properties I was buying were 200 grand or less up until a year ago. And it's getting much harder to buy those properties, right? And something that occurred to me only recently, right? A 200 grand property is now turning to $300,000. Entry point, right? Entry point anywhere 300 grand is starting to become the new norm, where entry point used to be 200 grand for us. So the thing I've realized is that if you could go and spend $1.2 million on property and you buy 1 property, 2 property, 3 property, how many, right? I could literally buy you a year ago 20 years, 22 years of my investing. I could have bought all different locations all around Australia, different markets I've jumped in and out of, bought in every single state, in every single territory, in every single pocket. I've bought properties for the last 22 years that are 200 grand or less. Take your pick. Here's one market's gone up, the other one's gone down, whatever. And let's say you buy for $1.2 million, just using this as an example, right? $1.2 million, you buy 6 properties for 200 grand a piece, and they rent for $400 a week. So what you're in essence doing is buying 6 assets for that 1.2. You got 6 sets of income at say $400 a week. 6 fours are 24. That's 2,400 a week. You're getting yourself, 120 grand a year, let's call it, in your portfolio. So if I bought you that same portfolio for 1.2 then, right? Let's say you're coming to me in 2025. Yes, I can still build you that portfolio, but in 2026, I don't think it's going to be possible. That's just being very candid to you guys, right? So if I had to spend $300,000 for the property, that means for the $1.2 million that you're going to be spending, you're only going to get 4 properties. You're not getting 6, you're getting 4. So you've lost 33% of your purchasing ability because you're paying an extra 100 grand a piece, right? You've missed out on the growth on those properties, right? But your entry price is now 300 grand and not 200 grand. That has one impact, right? Which is like, shit, I'm only getting 4 properties and I'm not getting 6. And you could be sitting there going, well, I just lost 30% of my purchasing ability, right? And that's the aim of this conversation, right? Because reality of it is there's not really much under 350 or 400 now out there, right? And we don't want to buy shit boxes. I like buying stuff in capital cities or major regional hubs, right? And majority, I'd say 80% of the stuff that I buy is in major capital cities. So if we have to spend 300 or 350, that means you could be only getting 3 properties instead of 6, right? But let's just say we're getting 4 properties on this example. And those 4 properties are renting for $400 a week. So your rent is only $1,600 per week. And over a year, that's 80 grand in the year. So the problem that's going to become for people coming in the future or haven't pulled their finger out or pulled the trigger or whatever you want to look at it as, you could buy 6 properties for 1.2, but you're getting 120 grand a year worth of income. But if you're only able to buy 4 properties, you've lost 33% of your purchasing ability, which is bad, but it's not the bad part about it, right? The bad part is even worse than that, because your income from those 4 properties you're buying at $400 a week rent is $1,600 or 80 grand a year. If you were getting on scenario number 1, 120 grand a year income, and now you're only getting $80,000 income, but you're taking on the purchasability of $1.2 million, that means you're missing out on $40,000 worth of income. And look, I don't think anyone needs to be, you could be semi-retarded and still calculate, right? And look at it and go, 40 grand a year, that's a lot of income that I'm missing. So when you go to the bank, right, and I ain't a broker, and you're probably not a broker watching this, and you'd have to think, if I went to my broker and said, hey, I had an extra 40,000 disposable income to spend, what would that affect to my serviceability? Well, the extra 40 grand a year servicing might mean that you could buy another 300, 400 grand worth of property. So not only are you losing the 30% of the asset value because you can't buy it anymore because it's gone up too high, your opportunity cost has disappeared, but your servicing is going to get completely fucked as well. And it's going to mean that it's going to be another kick in your guts, and it's going to hurt your ability to move at such an aggressive speed as what you could do today, for example. So I just thought I'd make it could be a short podcast. I could go on a longer tangent about this, right? And I probably will. But I just thought it was very important to pull apart those numbers, right? Get out your piece of paper, get out your pen, and start doing calculations and realizing that as these markets are moving, if you're not being aggressive and active and moving in those markets and doing everything you can, the difference between the have and the have-nots is going to separate massively, right? Those with 20 properties, and the properties go from 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 grand, they're going to get increasingly more, wealthy, right? The divide will grow at such a greater level, right? For those that are not into the market and don't have their hand onto the ladder, it's going to become increasingly harder for them. And, there's still always going to be deals. I've seen deals out there every year since I started buying, and even before I started buying, like 25, 30 years ago when I was like 12, 13 years old, looking at magazines with properties in them. It is going to become much harder. So, I see people go, oh, it's all right. I know I need 20 properties. I'll just buy 1 this year and 2 next year. And it's like, man, you can buy fucking 10 today. What's stopping you from it? And you're going to look back and go, I wish I did it. I could have done it. How could I have done it? I can't do it now. Right? I think it's important to really understand what's for you and what's against you. Right? And, that was the most scariest thing. If I was to say the biggest oh shit moment I've seen in many years, it was the realization that that's the calculation that I've just calculated and drawn out for you. $1.2 million. You could buy 6 properties. You could buy 4 properties. Soon you're only going to be able to buy 3 properties or 2 properties with that, right? That's going to slow you down tremendously. The scariest part is that cash flow, because if you could buy 4 properties, you could buy 6 properties, that's an extra 40 grand a year you're missing out on. I haven't even gone to the next step of going, okay, let's say you buy 4 properties or 3 properties, let's say 3 or 4, or you buy 6. What happens when those rents go up? So you're thinking, okay, I've lost 40 grand a year, but what about the rents go up $100 a week and you've got 2 properties, there's another 200. There's another 10 grand a year. Just you miss out on putting that 10 grand up. You don't have the asset that you can strap the rental increase or the income gain for yourself to, because you don't have it. You didn't get it and hold on to it quick enough. And the same thing could apply for people that are selling properties too, right? I'm not saying selling, don't sell, don't ever sell, right? There's some people I say, hey, you should fucking sell. You've had something's gone crazy. You redeploy your capital, right? But once you sell that asset, then you don't have any rights to future growth. I don't have people calling me up and going, hey, Birchie, I'm so happy I sold a property 10 years ago. I bought it for 200, I sold it for 400, I made 200 grand. It sounds good on the day, but generally they come back to me with like, shit, Birchie, I wish I bought more than our 800 grand. I wish I didn't sell. They're worth 800 grand. Some people just don't talk to me because they're embarrassed, right? So when I look at it from that perspective, what does your portfolio look like today? What do you need it to look like in the future? What movements and what gear sticks do you have to turn left and to turn right? And how can you get yourself there most aggressively but safely on that journey? I don't think many people look at it into that macro level of the market is out there happening, right? The market's always happening, right? We can go, well, we're not going to buy in Townsville today. We're going to go and buy in Perth. I wasn't buying the Gold Coast. I used to buy in the Gold Coast for 150K. I can't buy there for under 700, right? It's just stupid. You got other areas. It's like, well, that's gone up from 150 to 600 grand or 500 grand or whatever the case may be. But this is all happening around us, right? And as it's happening, some people are going, yeah, I'm so rich. Some people will be like so egotistical and go, yeah, let's go do heaps more and hurt themselves by being too aggressive. Some people would be too under, moving. They're not moving fast enough. So that is a big fear. I'm just going to leave it at that. However long this has been, I'm going to leave it at that. If it's a short podcast, fucking take another 10 minutes and think to yourself, shit, how's my portfolio going to look? If I had to spend an extra 50%, right? The cool thing about buying a property at 200 grand is it only has to go up to 200 grand more to double, right? You buy a property at $1 million and it has to go up 200 grand. It's only gone up 20%. Who gives a shit, right? The cool thing about it, but in reverse, as the market's going up, you're losing 50% of your purchasing ability, right? It's gone from 200 to 300. You've just lost 50% of the purchasing ability on that one movement. So it works good for those that have, but those that don't and those that need, it's going to make it shit tons harder to obtain. Work out a plan. If you need help working out a plan, you know where to find us, 1300-367-925, admin@beinvested.com.au. Click the links wherever this video podcast is playing from. And if you like it, smash up the likes, leave us a comment, share it with your friends and family, and make sure you subscribe every Thursday, Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, and YouTube. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it.